Welcome. I am so thrilled to have you here for another deep dive. Today, we're doing a full explainer on a literal paradigm shift in modern security, rogue drones and the high-stakes race to actually defend against them. If you're into seeing exactly how tiny, off-the-shelf tech is totally upending traditional warfare, you are definitely in the right place. We're going to explore how this incredibly accessible technology is completely rewriting the rules of national security. Okay, so here's our flight plan for today. We're going to hit 5 key areas. First, the rogue drone threat. Second, why these things actually defy traditional defenses. Third, the real science behind counter-drones. Fourth, we'll look at India's specific drone capabilities. And finally, number 5, the rules of the sky. Let's jump right in.
All right, Section 1, the rogue drone threat, or as I like to call it, the new face of terror from above. To really get why this matters, we have to talk about the wake-up call that absolutely shook modern military forces.
So picture this. 2 explosives-laden drones crashed into the Indian Air Force Station at the Jammu airport. Now, this is widely considered the very first offensive use of drones to target an Indian military facility. And, the implications here are they're staggering. We're talking about highly secure military defenses, systems built to track massive fighter jets and ballistic missiles, literally being bypassed by incredibly cheap, off-the-shelf tech acting as a delivery system for explosives. It's just wild.
And here's the thing, it wasn't just some crazy anomaly. Look at this number, 100 to 150. That is the estimated number of suspected drone sightings near India's western border every single year. Most of the time, they're running surveillance, smuggling arms and drugs, or giving cover to terrorists. So to put that into perspective, this isn't a rare event. It is a persistent, daily headache that establishes the terrifying sheer scale of the border security issue.
Now you might be wondering, why is this so hard to stop? Well, it really comes down to this massive economic asymmetry. Setting up counter-drone systems and conventional military grids, that is incredibly, painfully expensive for the defenders. But for the attackers, these commercial drones are just staggeringly cheap. This low cost lets both state and non-state actors, like Pakistan for instance, cause major disruptions completely under the radar. It gives them this built-in plausible deniability, right? They can probe and probe defenses without ever being directly blamed for a terror attack.
Which brings us to Section 2, why drones defy defenses. We know they're cheap, we know they're everywhere, but mechanically, why are multi-million-dollar defense grids failing against them? Let's break down the anatomy of the problem.
There's basically a 3-part taxonomy to this threat, and it's pretty terrifying. First up, autonomous drones. These guys are programmed by onboard computers to navigate to a fixed target. Because there's no real-time human control, you can't just jam the operator's signal, because, well, there is no operator. Second, drone swarms. Imagine hundreds of these cheap drones flying right at you all at once. The sheer volume completely overwhelms and confuses traditional tracking systems. And third, stealth drones. These are specifically tweaked to shrink their radar signature and dampen engine noise. So individually or as a swarm, they're basically designed to slip right past modern safeguards. Now, here is the absolute core of the technological dilemma. You might be thinking, why not just use radar? Well, conventional radars are built to track massive metal objects, like airplanes. If you dial up the sensitivity to catch tiny objects, the system gets completely overwhelmed because it literally cannot tell the difference between a drone and a bird. It's the classic, is it a bird, is it a plane, but it's a massive technological blind spot. Because of this, Indian forces often have to rely on good old-fashioned eyesight to trace and shoot these things down, which, as you can imagine, is incredibly tough at high altitudes.
All right, moving on to Section 3, the science of counter-drones. We know the problem, so let's shift this explainer over to the solutions. How exactly do we fight back? Because these counter systems are actually being used routinely now, even during major public events like Republic Day celebrations. Obviously, you can't neutralize what you can't see, so detection is absolutely crucial. And the science here is fascinating. Specialized radars use incredibly low transmitted power to spot bird-sized drones. Then you have acoustic sensors listening for motor noise, though in a noisy urban environment, you're going to get a lot of false alarms. But my absolute favorite is the passive coherent locator. It essentially piggybacks on third-party transmitters. It uses the TV broadcasts and FM signals that are already bouncing all around us to detect the tiny, tiny signal disruptions caused when a microdrone flies through them. How cool is that?
Once you spot it, you've got to intercept it. And interception breaks down into 2 fascinating categories, hard kill and soft kill.
Hard kill is your brute force approach, kinetic options like anti-aircraft guns, or literally burning the drone out of the sky with high-power energy beams and lasers. Though keep in mind, lasers don't work great in bad weather. Soft kill, on the other hand, is so much more elegant. You've got radio jamming to overwhelm the controls, or the ultimate trick, GPS spoofing. Spoofing actually tricks the drone's brain into forgetting its waypoints, forcing it into autopilot. Then defenders can hijack it, land it safely, and boom, you have the enemy's fully intact tech ready for analysis.
Section 4. India's drone capabilities. Because look, it's not just about playing defense, it's about deterrence and building an arsenal. Let's transition over to how India is actively arming itself with both global and domestic drone tech. The crucial takeaway here is that India isn't just importing, they are actively innovating. Take the DRDO Detect and Destroy system. This is a powerhouse indigenous technology that was actually deployed for VVIP protection during the Republic Day parade and the Namaste Trump event. What makes it a real game changer is that it packs a 1-2 punch, successfully combining hard kill laser destruction with soft kill jamming, and it works flawlessly within a 1 to 3 kilometer range. And the broader scale of their procurement is just deeply impressive. India uses Israeli Heron surveillance drones plus Harap kamikaze loitering munitions. They're also looking to grab the famous MQ-9 Reaper drones from the US. But this third point is the one that absolutely blows my mind. The HAL CATS Warrior. This is a domestic project where a manned fighter jet flying a safe 700 kilometers away acts as a mother vehicle. It literally guides a pack of 4 unmanned CATS Warrior drones straight into enemy territory. Oh, and they are also developing a rotary drone helicopter specifically for high-altitude logistics at 15,000 feet. Absolutely next-level stuff.
Okay, finally, Section 5, Rules of the Sky. We've talked a lot about kinetic weapons and jamming signals, but the ultimate shield doesn't just involve hardware. It involves the regulations, the invisible net in the sky.
Let's start with a really brilliant concept, NPNT, or No Permission, No Takeoff. Under the UAS Rules 2021, India mandated this for pretty much all drones except the absolute tiniest nano ones. Think of it as a digital lock and key system. The commercial drone literally will not let its motor spin unless the operator has received digital clearance through a centralized app. The hardware is totally bound by the software of the law.
To keep everything organized, the airspace itself is strictly sliced up. Microdrones are hard capped at an altitude of 60 meters, and small drones at 120 meters. But on top of those vertical limits, you have massive horizontal restrictions. Sensitive locations, airports, border areas, military bases, these are strictly prohibited zones. It basically creates these invisible bubbles where drones are completely bricked and simply cannot operate.
And tying this whole shebang together are the National Counter Rogue Drone Guidelines. The ultimate goal here is an automated traffic management system that gives hyperlocal, real-time tracking of every legal drone in the air. It pushes for dynamic geofencing, invisible digital walls to literally prevent a drone from flying into vital civilian infrastructure. Add in live telemetry data exchange, all overseen by a multi-agency body involving the Air Force and civil aviation, and you've got this incredibly complex, living web of data keeping the skies secure.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer, and leaves us with one really big, thought-provoking question. As our skies inevitably fill with cheaper, faster, and fully autonomous swarms, what is the ultimate defense? Is it a better weapon to shoot them down, or a better, invisible digital net to strictly control the airspace? It is such a delicate, high-stakes balancing act between embracing this incredible technological innovation and ensuring ironclad national security. I really hope this deep dive helped clarify just how massive this drone revolution is. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and as always, keep questioning the technology shaping our world.